All right, Kizar. It is another episode of Saturday Night Lodge, our live panel show. Welcome.
Good to be back. Yeah, looking forward to the second edition of this Saturday night one. I do love the Saturday night one when we get some special guests on and freshen it up a little bit.
Well, it is on Saturday night, but it's not every Saturday night just yet. We run it about roughly monthly. And lucky for us, it has been a very busy month in Heresy. Lots of juicy leaks and rules to go through. Warcom's previewed a whole bunch of stuff that isn't in the leaks. And we can assemble all that sort of stuff in our minds and talk to you about it today. So, Kieran, we've got two special guests today. And we're a little bit late on the stream because one of them decided to take a poo before the show. So I'll leave it up to live chat to decide who that was. But without further ado, we're going to introduce the powerful boys from Heresy Hammer. Welcome, Rob. Welcome, Lee.
Hello. Fucking, I was there. By the way, I was the phantom pooer. That was me, actually.
You don't know how tempted I was whilst we were waiting to strip naked and just stand in front of the camera, like, every ounce of my self-control not to just be like, ta-da!
This is the kind of highbrow kind of like content that you've got us on board for, isn't it?
Highbrow, you're mistaken. No way.
Oh dear. How's it going? All right.
Yeah. Very good. Slowly getting over the flu. If I sound like the Terminator or Eidolon or someone like that, that's why.
Fair play.
You look like you've been on it for about 3 days. You look like you're in. Yeah,
feels like it too.
Day,
to be
day
honest.
3 of a week bender.
Stick it out of my head. Boys. What is our initial sort of excitement level based upon the last month that we've had?
Warp factor 10, mate. Fucking couldn't be higher. Could not be more aroused for Heresy right now. Yeah, no, it's great. I'm looking forward to it. I think one thing I would say is that that it's so funny how quickly 2.0 is forgotten, isn't it? Like we're running a campaign at the moment, and like I played a couple of games this month. And like it was just really fun to play some games and not think about like what's coming up. But of course, like we're now in the cycle in the Charybdis that is sucking us in the whirlpool of kind of like 3.0. So yeah, really excited, really pumped for it. It's always good to get a refresh, I think, on stuff and a new intellectual challenge. So yeah, pretty pumped for it.
I just want it now. I just want it in my hands. Enough of the cock teasing. Just do it. You know what I mean?
They're just fucking tickling our balls, aren't they? Fucking going like this. Yeah,
put it in already. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah, I am superly hyped, but I am just like I just want it now. I feel like GW does a very good job of just dragging things out just a little too long. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like if they cut it down by about 2 weeks. Yeah. Like so I'm hyped, but I just want to see the Libers as well. Like I want to see the Libers, but then also I've heard a lot of rumors saying I don't want to see the Libers.
I'll just fucking depress you. Yeah.
Just quick on that note, Rob. You said that it's always great for a refresh.
Yeah.
Now,
yeah.
Do you think that 2.0 has maybe run its course and is maybe outstayed its welcome, even though it's only been 2.5 years?
Yeah. So I think
like, what are your thoughts on going from edition to edition from the one that we've just sort of experienced?
Yeah. So I actually think so I think 2.0 was in a pretty good place. I think on reflecting on the past 3 years, I think it was a shame that facts didn't, and erratas, not so much facts, just erratas actually didn't kind of come more thick and fast. I think that is something that I'm kind of a bit like, it's a bit of shame that points weren't rebalanced, and a Thunder Hammers weren't given like a 50-point increase, and Suzerain weren't given 100 increase across it. Those kinds of things I think would have been welcome, and I think the community would have been fine and would have managed those things. I think one of the things I would always say, though, or one of the things I would say, is that when you play Horus Heresy as intensively, and bear in mind, I think this comes from different kind of like different communities will have different experience of this. You might be somebody who only gets to play once every 3 monse because that's the only time you visit events. I'm somebody who basically would often play once or twice a week with local gang, go to events, run events, so I have a lot of Heresy. And what I noticed a lot from 2.0 was that if you were playing an Iron Hands player, you could almost guarantee what was in the list. Like, we had got to the point where list creativity, again, it's not for everybody, because like Howie, who we know, who comes to our events quite often and is a really nice guy, runs a podcast. He like does crazy shit, like takes a White Scars all flyers list, right? Like, and it's nuts. It's anti-meta. It does really well because like there are the outliers, but typically you would see, okay, right, we've got a command squad in a land raider with jump packs. We've got 2 contemptors in there. One of them's built for close combat. One of them's built for long range. You've got 1 or 2 heavy supports. You can almost like, or you could probably predict what 80% of the list is just going to look like before you go into an event. So I think just for that alone, it's good often to have a shake up of the meta and shake up of list building. Now, where you could usually deal with that is probably actually just going readdressing points, and then that would often change better. So I don't mind how they do it, but often just for the intellectual challenge of kind of like learning a new edition, learning how to learning how to list build again in a different way, I find that mentally quite stimulating. I understand that lots of people won't, because they just like playing games that they're used to. But for me, I think I'm fine with a 3-year cycle, as long as the legions have flavor to them, and like list building is an exciting challenge and those sorts of things. Like, we have yet to see what the levers look like. But I like rules changes is fine, right? I'm just fine with rules changes. Like, you just learn rules after a couple of months. Like, it's not a big deal, but it's the levers that they need to get. That's the bit they need to get right.
I think for me, it might have come about 12 months ago, where I kind of felt that 2nd edition was kind of losing steam, and it probably was due to that. It didn't have a shakedown, like you said. There was no errata, there was no FAQ. Boy, we did have a lot of questions, right?
I think for me,
12 months though, right, and it really didn't address some of the real core issues that we were having in the game too. So
I think,
issues still kind of stymied the game moving forward.
Yeah,
the game was still fun, and there was lots of enjoyment to had from it. But like the new development of ideas and list building, and the meta actually changing and rolling upon itself again and again, that sort of fundamental change, I think, dried up. Would you guys agree? Or?
Yeah, it's interesting, because I enjoyed 2nd edition, but I actually preferred 1st edition for
Oh, is that right? I didn't know that.
Yeah. I like that they introduced things. They introduced, like, obviously reactions and whatnot. I don't think they did it very well, but I think the biggest drawback for 2nd edition was actual list building, and what you've talked about. Like, people took all the good shit, because like you were almost restricted in your list building. Like, 1st edition, you could take a character that would unlock Terminators as troops. You didn't have to take a Rite of War. Like, you had special characters that would unlock certain units, and you had a little bit of it in 2nd edition. You had like 1 or 2 characters that would unlock, like it was usually like Imperial Fists or whatever, would unlock their Templars or whatever the fuck they are. But I found the list writing in 2nd edition to be more restrictive, and then the fact that they basically just killed off flyers. Like, You know, unless you're just going, fuck it, I love flyers, I'm going to play them, knowing that you're going to lose all your flyers turn 2. Like no one took flyers, so you've just taken out an entire element of the game because no one was running them. And I just feel like, yeah, I feel like there was a lot of restrictions that weren't actual restrictions, but just, yeah, like that. Like 10-man last cannon squads. Like, it's fucking boring, isn't it? Like 10-man last cannon squads are boring, but people are going to take them because they're really good and they can react.
Yeah.
But then you've got a whole element of that. And yeah, I just found like I could create way more interesting lists in first edition than I could in second edition. Mainly based off the fact that we lost all the characters unlocking certain things.
Well, there's still one character who could unlock sort of things, and that's Sigismund.
Yeah,
the master of us all.
Yeah. But yeah, I find it interesting. Like, I know that's probably a controversial opinion, but I preferred first edition. But the game is essentially the same. It's been the same, you know what I mean, the whole way through. Like they added reactions, but the core of the game was the same, wasn't it? You know, movement, shooting. Okay, they changed the close combat weapon skill table, and that did have an impact. But it was essentially the same game. Whereas this is, or it seems to be, a total shake-up. And I like that. I'm all for that. You know, we've had however many years of Heresy being pretty similar. Like, I'm all up for just, like, some people will hate it, some people just want to play Rogue Trader, and that's fine, I get it, but I'm all up for like something completely new. It's not 40k, you know, it's not that 40k is particularly basic, but it's not a bitch basic game. It looks like it's going to be pretty cool.
It's not
Shatterpoint,
Point, is it? It's not like Kill Team or something like that.
I don't know what Shatterpoint is, but yeah.
No,
I'm excited. I think it's a big shake up. It's all new. Like, the list writing's going to be totally different, and like, it might be shit. We might get 2 months down the line and be like, actually, this has killed all the flavor. There's no rights of war or something. But I don't think we will. I think people will be like, well, actually, that list that I always wanted to run, I can now run it. I'm super excited. I'm like mega excited to see.
One of the things we were literally, because me and Lee have just recorded actually, and one of the things I think is going to be interesting is if you have legion specific auxiliary detachments, like one per legion or whatever, like how, because then you can get into a contest, can't you, in that scenario, which is that you can kind of go, okay, which one's the best one? Which offers the best utility? Which one means that you have to take the least amount of characters? Which one's going to offer the tax? And I think that in itself is quite an interesting challenge. So, like, will 2 support and 2 like tanks, is that a good auxiliary detachment, or is a good auxiliary detachment like 1 command, 1 troop, 1 support, 1 dread, 1 tank? Because that's like covers all your bases just in in one auxiliary detachment. So I think that will be interesting. But I think I think a refresh is good, but it's the levers that we really, really need.
Yeah, that's what we want to see now, isn't it? Yeah, just see how it all works, what war gear options there are, how that all links in. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. But yeah, so far I'm really excited for what I've seen. Yeah.
So models wise, let's just touch on models before we talk about some rules.
Yeah.
Give us your thoughts on all the Saturnine stuff. Hot or not?
Because I'm these are hot just because I like the models. Like, I like the models, so yeah, I'm down with Saturnine. Rules wise, I don't know. I think we're going to see a lot of weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4 in this edition. I feel like from what we've seen of the rules so far, I think it's going to be kind of characters and your specific legion elite units that are going to be like weapon skill 5 and above. I think there's going to be. Yeah, so when you look at things like, they're only weapon skill 4, I don't think that's going to be as impactful as it is in second edition. But I was still surprised to see all the Terminators and Veterans being weapon skill, ballistic skill 4. I see these just being run as almost like a fire support unit rather than getting in and punching things.
It's a brick shit house with
guns, right? Yeah. It's going to be tough to kill. high toughness, good save, shooting things. I mean,
For you, Lee, if you had 2 plasma cannons.
if I strap 2 guns to man, I mean, from what I've seen, they're basically going to kill themselves before someone else kills them. Like, but I'm super excited for these. I mean, even if these were shit, we said this on Heresy Hammer. Even if these rules were totally shit, I would still run them because I know these are Marmite. Like fucking, you either love them or hate them. But I really like these, so it'll be interesting to see how they do perform on the tabletop.
So model wise, I really like them. I think they sit in an odd place though, which is that because we have not had the next evolution or revolution of Terminators, I think that they sit in a very, very odd place, like because they are so big in comparison to what we're used to, that like I can understand why people be like, oh, these are just 40k Centurions, basically. I think when inevitably they will upscale Tartarus and Cataphractii. I think that is inevitable. And then when they sort of sit between that Marine and Saturnine, I think that we'll all be more comfortable with the size of Saturnine. I think they're quite outlandish just in the current landscape. So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is I don't find them offensive. I think they look pretty good. I think that once you do a little bit of like helmet swapping, like with some Legion specific helmets or whatever, I think that you can kind of make them kind of your own. I think I'm looking forward to seeing people shaving off the Jovian kind of like Saturnine like Aquila, and then putting some like hazard stripes on the front, and I think that will make them unique. And I'm looking forward to like the Saturnine Dread itself. Again, it's outlandish because it's so big, because we're kind of like not used to it. But the moment it gets on the table, people are just like, oh yes, this is totally normal to me now. And I think the other thing is that dreadnoughts are never ever seen in their best light on GW kind of like box art in terms of the build. Like if like the paint job I think is amazing, but like if they gave their the builders a bit more like freedom to kind of do some cool poses, like on top of a dreadnought with one leg up and then looking this way and firing this way with the other arm down, I think people would be all over it. Like if they had released the Leviathan dreadnought first without us ever seeing the resin one before, just as that plastic with its 2 arms like this, people would be like, it's the stupidest looking thing in the entire world. I'm never going to buy that. People love it now because we've seen what can happen with the kit. So yeah, I really, really like it. But I think one of my big things I would say is that it's outlandish in our current landscape. I think once they upscale the Cataphractii and the Tartarus, even like, dare I say things like Tortuga or upscaling just in terms of 3D printing, I reckon, like Adam, if you had your Terminators next to these guys, they're not going to look that out of place, really, are they? But Kieran and Lee, you both have Tortuga Terminators. They're not really going to look that outlandish next to those guys. So I think that's the thing. I think Mark II is like, it looks good, looks fine, great to have another armor mark. I really, really like the Arachne autocannon. I really love that because I love the Sakaran. Like that's essentially it. And I'm also interested to know whether you can put the Arachne autocannon, whether it fits nicely just on top of a Sakaran. That would be pretty cool, wouldn't it? But it's just I really like it. Like I think it'll be a nightmare to play with in terms of those feet. I think they're going to be a bit of a pain in the ass, but the actual like ball turret itself is just like an amalgamation of like Fire Raptor smashed with like Sakaran, which I absolutely love.
Man, I can't wait to paint these up as Iron Warriors. They're gonna look so fucking
so good.
Like,
Well, of what we've seen, the Iron Warriors are actually the best looking.
Yeah, mate. The ones I saw today.
Obviously. That's just a given, isn't it? Yeah.
Kieran's awfully quiet right now. I can just hear it, like the steam coming out of his ears.
Do you hate them, do you?
You not like them? What's wrong with them?
Like, I don't mind the scale. Like, the scale doesn't bother me. Like, we've had this chat in our scale episode. Like, I use Tortuga next to regular models. Yeah. So larger models doesn't bother me. I just think they look trash. Like, I just think.
But what about them? It's trash.
I just think they're bad looking models. Like, they don't look like they work. Like the leg joints are really strange on the hips.
Yeah.
And like, I'm looking forward to getting them in hand because, like you said,
don't lie.
Sometimes models look good in hand and in photographs, but they never look better in photographs.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
always, they're generally always better in the hand.
I always
definitely,
reserve
like-
judgment.
Yeah, I'm willing to give them a go and see what they can do. And I'm looking forward to actually like converting some up and seeing if I can make some small changes to them that make me enjoy them a bit more. But as they are at the moment, like I just think they look crap. They're a bit too out there. They're a bit too Rogue Trader, and I'm not like a fan of that whole Rogue Trader aesthetic. So it doesn't really kind of talk to me. It doesn't look like Heresy that we grew up with from like Alan Bly.
Oh no,
Yeah,
gone
like-
are those days now. I think gone are the
way
days
back
of
in the
Garfield
days, like
Laken.
we've gone back to the 80s and the 70s or whatever, and it just looks
Yeah.
bit
See,
crap.
I'm a child of the 80s, so I quite like it.
Mm.
But
I think
also,
it's the big jump in design language change.
yeah,
huge jump.
And it was interesting what you said, Rob, because the Saturnine might be like the final piece of that sort of language, and we don't have the in-between bits just yet.
Yeah.
To kind of, journey through the next evolution.
To be honest, I'm a bit I was always a bit confused about this box just in general. Like so my understanding, and these are like rumors that are going back for like 12 months that will be on some like subreddit that like I will have read and then kind of like just stored away at the back of my head. I was under the impression that these Saturni were meant to come in like a smaller battle box, and this was not meant to be like a new edition box, and like this was like a standalone box with like the Arachne, the Saturnine, and then the Saturnine Dread, and like the battle box we have for like the new Mark III, and then the Solar Orcs, and then the Mechanicum. It was like supposed to fit within that, and then there's been some time and something has happened in between that has meant that these have been packed in with the rulebook, which I think is interesting in and of itself. Or whether that was just total BS and like this was always meant to be the intention. I don't know, but yeah, I wonder whether we would look differently if it say like didn't have the Mark II in it or something like that. And it was just a box and a standalone box in and of itself. That
Yeah, well,
we've
we've been hearing about the contents of this box since September last year.
Yeah, literally, and that's what makes me think that it was meant to be a battle box and not a new edition box, right? They've just repackaged everything.
Earmarked for Christmas, and it was going to be a big Marine release at Christmas, which we didn't end up getting.
Yeah.
Heresy got no big box for Christmas.
I think one thing we've learned about Games Workshop is everything is just a bit of a clusterfuck, isn't it? And usually they don't do stuff because they planned it. They do stuff because everything's gone wrong.
Release schedule's fickle, and they adapt it and they change it all the time.
Yeah.
It could have been a battle box, and X, Y, and Z could have happened. It could have been shuffled in the queue, and then they would have gone, look, it's actually past the milestone that we wanted it for.
Yeah.
What we can do is we can release X, Y, and Z little things in the meantime. We can compound that box set into the new rules that we're currently working on at the moment.
That is literally what I think has happened. Like that is my prediction. That's what I think has happened. Yeah.
With the
Iron Warriors and Salamander transfers in the command kit, that makes me think that they were sort of kind of supposed to be in the same kind of release kind of window originally.
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, they've just pushed it.
That's the giveaway, right?
Or they brought those others forward,
I mean, I remember when I was sitting in, I can't remember if it was a 40k day or something at Games Workshop, and they were showing one of their, I think it was going to be like the next Imperial Armor book that they were releasing. It was all written. They had all the rules done. It was going to introduce...
Oh, these are the Fire or Syraxis.
Yeah, it was going to introduce 30k rules, 30k models into 40k. So I think it was still 7th edition 40k. And they had the book written, like Forge World had written the whole book. It was pretty much going to print. And then they released 8th edition 40k.
Yeah.
And Forge World literally didn't know anything about this. They were like, what the fuck is this? Like, so that all that work they'd done on this book was completely ruined, and they basically just threw it in the bin. So I agree with what you're saying, like things are fickle, but I also 100% believe that Games Workshop, like a lot of large organizations, do not talk to each other. So there's constantly things happening, and then someone's like, "Oh fuck, we were going to release this then. Oh fuck, we need to come up with another plan." And then they quickly just like try and come up with other plans.
I suspect that though is why they've kind of they've essentially got rid of the Forge World Studio, and it's not. I suspect that.
Yeah,
was probably
but
the
I think this
catalyst.
happens between departments like the Age of Sigmar, and is that even a thing? Age of Sigmar anymore? I don't know. Old World, 40k. Like it's another thing that they do seem to just be consistently pretty shit.
And when they've got nothing to release for the week, they'll just be like, just fucking send out the next butterbeer from the.
And look at, I mean, even their Warcom articles, and I like the Warcom articles, but 9 times out of 10 they get fucking everything wrong, don't they? And you're like, what?
Well,
you know, even
not,
just with the legions, they'll get the wrong legions. And
marketing people, they're
yeah,
not true lovers.
No, I get it, but you're a multi-million-pound organization, like surely you can get, like they put the rules out for the. When they first showed the rules for like the veterans for a 3rd edition, they showed like the console, and they got half the fucking stuff wrong on the console.
Yeah, well, they changed that dread. They changed
it immediately. So that was obviously a mistake. It's just things like that. I don't know. Like I'm not here to like bash Games Workshop, but yeah, sometimes you look at it and you're like, fucking hell, like, come on, it can't be that hard. You're literally just copying and pasting it from the rulebook, and between copying it from the rulebook and pasting it on your website, you've managed to fucking change it.
Somebody asked us yesterday. They were like, "Why don't you guys have like Games Workshop sponsorship?" And I'm like, "It's because of stuff like this. It's because
well, I mean, it's because of stuff like that, and also because we are not the face of Games Workshop."
No, I guess not.
No. I mean, I was
because Lee wanted to go strip naked in front of.
Yeah, I was literally contemplating stripping naked. That's not the face of Games Workshop.
We're on PG-13.
Kieran, I know you've dumped some rules stuff in here. You are across it more than I am. Do you want to bring them up and just sort of one by one, and we can just chat through them? But maybe the way we should lead into this is, the leaks have been out there and dripping for a while now, and there's more and more each day. Wherever you get your leaks from, whether it's the deepest, darkest hole in the web, or your mate sends it to you, wherever it comes from, more and more is coming out each day. It is really hard to be sort of across it all. I know for myself, I'm not across everything either. And me personally, I find it kind of hard to read it all, digest it all when pages are out of sequence and you can't sort of flick to and fro to see how one rule affects another or relates to the next. So for me, it's a little bit fragmented. You guys have done a million videos on this stuff already, so you probably are a lot more across it than what I am. But what is your sort of favorite new rules change that you've read about so far? It could be big, it could be small, but what do you think you guys are most looking forward to in your games coming up?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know, to be honest.
I mean, it could be the Force org chart. Well,
yeah,
I mean, I actually like the Force org chart. I know a lot of people are struggling with it. I think a lot of people are struggling with it just because it's totally different. You know what I mean? Like, every time you get a rules change, you end up thinking of the previous rule. Like I did it from 1st edition, then when we had the 1.5 come in, then 2nd edition. They'll change a little something, and then you keep remembering it, how you've played it for the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. You know what I mean? So something like this is completely different. That I think people are still trying to think of like 1 HQ, 2 tac squads, and this is just not that at all. But I actually really like this. I think one of the things I disliked with the Rite of Wars from 1st, but mostly 2nd edition, is they were so restrictive, some of them. Like if you want to run Pride of the Legion, like you just couldn't really, could you? You could only take 2 scoring Terminator units. If you wanted to run like a Terminator force, you could only take 2 units that score.
You'd have to take like tactical or assault squads in there.
Yeah, so you were forced to take things. And I mean, obviously this is slightly different because everything's scoring, but some things are going to be better scoring than others. But you only had 1 heavy support slot if you took Pride of the Legion. And I just found it so restrictive that I was like, well, I'm just never going to run this because it's just not, I'm not going to end up with the force that I want to run. Whereas now I'm like, well, actually, I can. I mean, the biggest restriction now is you're going to end up taking more HQ slots to open up those other slots. Potentially, like, it may not work out like that. We always think like, oh, fucking hell. I've seen loads of comments of like, oh, I'm going to have to run 15 fucking command slots to run my army. And it's like, once you actually start looking at it, it probably isn't going to be that bad, actually. But until we play it, we don't know. But yeah, I actually really like it. But I do understand why people are like, what the fuck is this?
I know you're really tolerant of people acting like dickheads. But do you think
he doesn't suffer fools gladly, does he? No.
Do you think that this style of like open detachment, let's call it, is or can be abused?
I think it can be abused, but then every edition we've had could be abused, couldn't it? Like, you're never gonna get rid of abuse.
Sorry to interrupt you, but did you see that list that went around? There was like a 2,000 point list.
All the rhinos.
Like 24 rhinos in it.
Yeah.
The problem with that, I think, is that although it is apparently that is a current list, what we don't know is like if a rhino has a special rule called Legion Transport, and it must therefore include, like, before the game starts, it must have something in it. And I think like that's a total meme list. Like, it'd be a lot funny to play.
Oh yeah, it's a meme list, yeah.
But it's we have, like, in terms of a puzzle, probably like a quarter of the puzzle at this moment in time. Until we have the levers, it's difficult to know, because what they've done again is they've split so many rules clearly between the levers and the main rulebook. So there might be something called Legion Transport, and that actually just makes it impossible. But
yeah, I just think, yes, this will, I mean, to answer your question, yes, 100% this will be open to abuse. But previously I could take 9 Contemptors and 9 Leviathans in a standard list. You know what I mean? Like,
and a Porphyrum, right? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you just go to Throne of Skulls and you can be like, okay, well, like 50% of these lists are like abusing.
Yeah, that just comes down to self-regulation, doesn't it? Like, you're always going to have self-regulation. Otherwise, we're basically just 40k. Like that, you know, like the one reason I could never get back into 40k, and this isn't to bash 40k, is like my local club. Like, if you go, you go there to win. Like, you're not playing to have a casual game. You're going to fucking crush your opponent. And if they're dead by turn 1, you've had a good game. Like, that's just not fun to me. And I know not everyone plays 40k like that, but that is how it's set up. Like that, my local scene, that is how 40k is played. Like, there's no like, oh, I'm bringing a fun list. It's like, I'm coming to fucking murder you. Whereas Heresy has always, like, not always, like, there's tournaments and we run a tournament, but you know what you're going into at a tournament. But at a normal event where you're playing mates and it's just, you know, you're having a beer and a laugh, you don't need to crush your opponent. And actually, that's not fun. But I think with like the line stuff, this is gonna, you're going to see a lot more kind of combined arms forces, I think. And hopefully flyers will be good again, or at least not totally shit, that you'll actually start seeing flyer lists. For me personally, like this force org, I can finally create the list that I want to create, which I couldn't create in 2nd edition. Whether it'll be good or not, I don't know. I don't really care, as long as it's not terrible. But yeah, I'm a big fan of this, but I do understand why people don't like it.
To go back to what you said before, Lee, I also found the Rights of War in 2nd edition extremely not only restrictive but linear, and that right would mean that list plays in the same way every sort of game.
It's funny, isn't it?
That's the point. That's what it's supposed to do.
But like first edition, I would always take a Rite of War. I would never not take a Rite of War. In second edition, I never took a Rite of War. I was just like, meh, I can do that
I'm the
without the
opposite.
restrictions.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, all I'm learning so far is that you're just wrong about everything.
I'm learning the same about you, mate. Fucking hell. Restrictions are good, like if they're applied well, because they, the idea is to force you into playing a list that's representative of the formation that is represented by that Rite of War or that Legion.
Yeah.
Whereas, if you have complete freedom, the pressure is like the emphasis is really on the player to self-regulate themselves.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I do agree with that.
Don't trust
I guess
that
the
people
trouble
will do
is
that.
the restrictions have to be well written, and I don't
Not
think
only
the
that,
restrictions
but
were
okay,
particularly well
I'm
written.
rocking up to a table and I'm playing Company of Bitter Iron.
Yeah.
You, all three of you know exactly what is on the table, like 90% of what I've got.
Yeah.
And that's fine because Company of Bitter Iron represents a specific force.
It's a bullshit
but
force.
For a replay, if I'm investing all this money, and
then you take a different Rite of War
to making my army, I want a high replay value from that. I don't want the same experience game after game after game. But that's what
then you take a different Rite of War.
That's what I found was coming out of the rights in 2.0.
Yeah, I agree, but I get your point, Kieran. I do. Without restrictions, then yeah, you can do what you like. But I just found like people would do what they like anyways, because no one forced you to take a Rite of War, so people would just end up doing whatever they wanted. Like I say, if you've played a Porphyrion at an event, you know how much of a non-starter that is. It's just not a fun game. And I mean, you can still do it now, but yeah, I just think any game system can be abused, can't it? No matter how many restrictions you put in, people will find a way around that restriction to abuse the system. Not everyone, but some people.
That's true, but now it's open season.
Yeah. But again, is it? Because you still got the tax of taking command. You can't, like we were going through the list today, and just trying to add contemptors is actually really fucking hard into a list.
Yeah,
because you only get one
shit now.
contemptor.
So why would you want to?
Yeah,
but I mean, this is the flip side. But,
so there's two things that a couple of things I want to just pull out there. So it's interesting you say about the Bitter Ryan, like what's in the list, and Kieran. So everyone's right in the sense that a Rite of War should force you to play in a certain way. That's absolutely fine. But the problem you actually had, it was compounded by the fact that also just generally in Horus Heresy, like armies were fairly standardized unless there was something really left field, like a Chagorian Brotherhood list, right? Like, you always knew that there were going to be a couple of contemptors in a list, like a Land Raider, a heavy weapons team. And then, so you've got a Rite of War that restricts you, compounded by the fact that there are some obvious choices within the game, and so because of that, it can kind of look samey, which goes to our original point. I think I'm not too afraid of kind of like open season. I guess that's the point that Kieran's kind of like making, which is like the world's your oyster. So this morning, just before we came on to do the show with you guys, we looked at our campaign, and I took a Sons of Horus list, and I took a for a frontline 2,000 point game and a ZM game. And what we did, so after we kind of like debriefed on the actual mission over on the Patreon, which all of you watching right now should definitely go and sign up to Heresy Hammer Patreon. We're basically giving away for free for £4 a month. But what we then did was we then took that list that I had written for both those games and then said, could I run this list in 3.0 by just kind of going, okay, well, let's just transpose this onto the new force organization chart, and we couldn't. It was actually physically impossible to do it. And one of the things that the stumbling blocks, so that on the frontline list, was having enough slots to make quite an efficient lean list, have enough of those slots. And what was interesting is that I was forced to basically, if I wanted to do that, I was forced to remove an assault squad, take a centurion with officer of line 2 to be able to gain 2 more auxiliary slots to be able to take that list. And that wouldn't have just solved the problem, because then we had the problem of an apothecary that didn't have a slot to go into as well. So it's interesting to me. I think you are right, it's open season. I think a logistical advantage can help you to unlock some units that can be abused, because what we're saying is really like, oh well, you can just put a contemptor in because there's bloody logistical advantage. Well, there are only like a finite amount of logistical advantage slots, also prime benefit slots, and you can only use one prime benefits like logistical advantage per slot. You know, there's not actually in the auxiliary slots, there's no prime benefits. It's just from the Apex, and that's from the Vanguard, and then from the primary, and then from the Allies detachment, right? So I think that there is, even at that 2K level, I think that actually you're going to have to take a minimum of 2 HQ choices. And that's, we were like, oh God, I'm going to have to take up a 60-point console to be able to take a 45-point apothecary. This doesn't so I think just on the surface, I'm sure there's probably ways to game it and people can make the most efficient as possible, but just on the surface it feels like actually I'm having to pay a bit of a tax here and there. And it was the same for the ZM, which was I had a really lean ZM list, worked really effectively, but if I wanted to take that list, I've got to shoehorn another console choice that I didn't want to put in there, and then in that scenario, that would cost me four reserve points to get on. So it's interesting. I'm not too kind of like worried at this moment in time. Like Heresy generally can kind of like regulate itself, and I think the Contemptor issue, I actually think Contemptors have swung the other way now, and I think they're not in the place. I think removing Talons from Contemptors and then this new Force Org would have been fine.
The fact that they're weapon skill 4, ballistic skill 4, and now they're actually hard to fit into a list has I think we were talking about this morning, and I think we'll see them initially because people still have them, but then 3 months, 6 months time, once people have been playing, I think Centurions will either start becoming gun platforms like Rob said, or just disappear. Because
my hunch is that Contemptors will just be gun platforms now. Like I don't. Number one, you can route them, and they can get tactical statuses. So I'm not really sure you want that many points tied up in something that that can get, because that's the thing about a Contemptor. Like it was so good at like holding up units because it was survivable, and like even if you didn't win a combat or you lost the combat, you're just like, I'm sticking around, baby. I'm here for the long game. Well, now I just think they're just going to be shooting platforms. That's that's all they.
Contemptors were the Mechanicum of first edition, weren't they? They were tough and they were really good at killing things.
Possible to kill,
but they're now the opposite.
Big skill 4 now just doesn't feel representative of what they are in the fluff.
No.
I think that's the biggest issue everyone's kind of got with it, right?
I don't think they had to do anything. I don't think they had to change it at all, because, like I say, it's actually
fucking Travis Melter points for starters.
They could have increased that. That's a separate issue, but yeah.
But actually,
just call Brutal 2 instead,
like just fitting them in a list now is actually, you either have to take it as part of your prime choice, or you take one as a detachment. You know what I mean? So even if you take a Centurion, you're only fitting 2 in off a detachment. And like going back to what we were saying before, I think the restrictions in the way this Force Org will come is actually just fitting detachments in without spending loads of points on HQ units. Like I think that's where the inbuilt kind of restrictions will come. But to be honest, like it's like anything, isn't it? Until we start playing it, and until we actually start 100%. Doing it, we won't really know, will we? It's all just guesswork.
Just 2 things just to pick out. So the Force Org is one I think that like looks good. I think it looks right. I think I think it looks really good. Very complex. And we were saying this morning, Lee, weren't we? That exactly, like event organizers are just going to have an absolute nightmare. If they're asking for list submissions, like event organizers will have to have like a template that people fill in, I think, in order to understand it, because I think it's going to be tough. The other thing I think I really like the look of is psychic powers. I think that is actually in a really good place. I think they've been toned down. I really like the fact that a psyker with a psychic like benefit with the power just comes with like a rule, like the explode 4 rule for the pyromancy one. Like, isn't that
So
so
cool.
cool? Like, so cool. And like the one that, one of the psychics just gains fear. It doesn't even need to get a psychic power off. It's just like there's a fear bubble around me because that's like my miasma that I cause and create, which I think again, like just from that alone, you get use from it. I like the fact that it's gone. I understand that you can gain a tactical status, but actually like killing yourself only happens on a double 1 or a double 6 or killing something in unit. So it seems a little bit safer than like in terms of like wounds lost. I think that's that's in a good place. And then I think the other thing that looks good is reactions as well. Like reactions look to be toned but down. And the fact that I think Overwatch just Intercept is a stat fire now, is it?
Yes. Yeah.
So Intercept's like a stat fire. So lots of the issues that cause these units to be so strong in second edition, which was that they basically could like fire 3 times within a whole game turn, seem to have been slightly reduced by the fact that like Marines are now snap firing on 5-ups and things like that.
It will be interesting to see what the war gear options do now. I'm hoping there isn't like free intercepts and stuff like that.
Free intercepts, and it makes your BS like normal
Full BS.
full BS. So I think that would be good.
It was amusing to sort of read the psychic powers and just be like, the usual suspects are at it again. I do think that like telepathy and the pyromancy is still probably the best ones.
Yeah, I didn't think pyromancy was as strong as it was before.
Have probably gone down.
Yeah, I think that's the case.
Power. The powers themselves are a little more even across the board. I just think that like those base rules, the telepathy one comes with Fear 1 or something like that.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, it's good.
And
I like it.
That's just terrific, just to have on all the time.
Can you imagine like, and what's really cool about that, I think, when I read it, I was like, oh man, like, can you imagine like a librarian in a heavy flamer squad, like just causing fear, and then the heavy flamers cause panic 1. You're just like hosing things down, and then you're like, okay, now you've got a cool check, a leadership check at like -2, like go for it, really, really cool. I really like it. So like there's, and you can already start to see the combinations that we didn't have in 2.0 and 1.0 coming in now, and then in 3 years' time we'll be bored of those combinations. The heavy flamer squad combined with the librarian, we'll be utterly sick of it, and then something
we'll try thaumaturgy and be like, oh, it's something fresh and new, and it's still shit.
That's true. That's true. But when it does work and brings your character back to life, it will be so tasty.
I think one of my favorite rules might be the volley fire.
Yes.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. So I'll be honest.
I don't like that.
Yeah, I looked at the assault.
Why don't you tell me?
Hey,
go on, Lee. Do you want to say? Because I think you're about to make the point I'm about to make.
That is the one part of the rules from what I've read. I'm a bit like you, Adam. Like I need the book in front of me and be able to flick through it and actually have a physical thing in my hand. But the close combat is the bit that I've read, and I'm like, my simple brain cannot handle all this. But I think it's one of them. It's just new, isn't it? Like I feel like they've simplified certain bits and then complicated other bits. So I think
create a strike squad, and this strike squad will go at this step.
Like,
and then
the fuck is that? But I feel like once we get used to it, it will just kind of even out. But I don't hate the idea of it. I don't know. I guess like you're just adding more shooting into what has previously been a shooting heavy game. Like, do we need I heard you like shooting. Here's some shooting for your shooting. It's
by contrast, how many pistols have you ever shot in 2.0?
Oh yeah, well, the only time you'd ever shoot them is because you don't want to fire a rapid fire weapon, isn't it?
Or an Overwatch.
Yeah.
So no one ever shoots a pistol. There's no point to ever upgrade to a plasma pistol or a hand flamer.
Yeah, no, true.
So actually bring pistols back into a game, I think, is pretty cool.
So the problem, you are right to some extent, but just think through what you're asking for here, because so the volley fire happens after the setup move, right? And if you do a setup move that gets you into combat, there is no volley fire. Am I right in saying that, Kieran? That's correct, right? So in that scenario, you're going to go, okay, well, I could volley fire at you, but I know exactly what you're going to do. If I kill like 5 guys from this volley fire, you're just going to take the first rank and make my charge harder. So actually, I'm just not going to volley fire. And I think that you are right in the sense that, yeah, okay, you never shot your pistols because you didn't want to get overwatched and get utterly annihilated. But also, it's just now been replaced by something else, which is that, are you ever going to volley fire? Like, or are you just going to go, I'm not going to risk it because, I just don't want to be 2 inches like further away from you. I think like it does depend. I think in some, like, how far can transport move? How far can you get out of your transport? How close can you get to your opponent on the first turn? If you can get like 17 inches closer to your opponent, like on that first turn, and like in that scenario, and you're basically next to them, and volley fire isn't so much of an issue, that's fine. But I just worry that volley fire for the charger is just going to make life a little bit harder.
I agree with Rob. Yeah, even in first edition, when there was no reactions, I'd barely ever shoot my pistols, just from the fear of making the assault longer, and they're also a waste of time. Like you usually might kill like 1 or 2 dudes if you get lucky. And, it's just going to make the assault longer. So even if the assault was a short assault, like I wouldn't do it unless like I literally couldn't fail the charge. Well, then it's fantastic. But that, I want combat to be better in the game, and that just makes it worse. So, yeah. Defensively, it's fantastic.
Because and the problem is that, and this goes back to self-regulation, which is unless you're really like playing your mates and you're just like, I'll just take the back ones off. Basically, it's always like people will just be like, well, I'm just going to take the off because it's going to make your life a little bit harder. And it could be the difference between me assaulting you and you next turn, or you assaulting me now. And if it's Emperor's Children, you're just like, I don't want to be assaulted by Emperor's Children, for God's sake. Like, like Jesus Christ, with a focus roll coming and +1 initiative coming and this sort of things. You're just like, fuck you. I don't want you assaulting me.
Kieran's Emperor's Children and Kieran's my mate. I'm definitely taking them all from the front. But effectively, right, it would be cool if you could volley fire something like a flamer and cause a panic check.
Oh man, yeah,
right?
that would be amazing.
Imagine statusing a unit that's about to charge you.
Yeah.
Like those.
I don't think it works like that. But I'm pretty sure it doesn't cause statuses. The volley fire.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
But it's got to be assault weapons, hasn't it? With the volley fire. And is melter assault?
Is that
a regular melter? Yeah.
Yeah. So
I don't know now, but it used to be.
So yeah. So it would be interesting to see if we even have support squads. But support squads in 2nd edition, you kind of just never saw them, did you? So I quite like the idea of like melter squads that can now actually, they don't need to worry about getting in close combat because they can just volley the fuck out of you with their damage free melter guns. But it'll be interesting to see. Again, I think it's another one of these things that until we've actually started playing, we don't 10 games
under our belt to really
we don't really know how it's going to work, and is it going to slow the game down, or is it actually just another tactical thing to think about? Like, do I want to volley fire? And also like war gear options, like you say, do I now want to actually take plasma pistols because actually volley fire is a thing and I want to cause a bit of damage? So it'll be interesting to see. Or
maybe I've got a unit that's actually pretty shit in combat, and the best chance he might have is shooting his plasma pistol.
And that comes back to what I was saying about the support squads, because they've never been close combat units, have they? But actually defensively, are they going to be really good now? Because volley fire is a thing, Overwatch reaction, we'll see. But like I say, there's a lot of these things that until we actually play it, we have no fucking idea, really, do we?
Another one I liked is the voluntary fallback from combat.
Right. Oh, I've just thought of one I do like, actually. Yeah.
And
it's only if you win, though, right?
Pardon?
It's only if you win the combat. So there is that limitation.
Yeah. I'm just saying, just in general.
So it's not going to save you, but it's a good tactic you can use. Yeah.
Tactically,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Full back and
what
then
that's going to mean is that if an opponent does attempt to tie you up, for example, and you do win, you can voluntarily leave, go get that objective or whatever. So I think movement and setup is going to be crucial to how the game's played. It's going to be a lot more anal in terms of model placement, I think. It's going to go sort of fantasy battles, not protractors level, but like there's not only is there going to be a movement phase, but there's going to be setup moves. There's going to be voluntary fallback moves. So you're going to have a lot of tic-tacking going on across the board.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be really interesting dynamically. And then you've got things like statuses, units that are routed and falling back. There's going to be lots more movement happening dynamically on the board. I think that's what I'm looking forward to.
Or attempting to restrict your opponent's movement through the status. But the other thing I thought of was you don't have to sweep in advance now, do you? You can just shoot them, or
You can't sweep in advance, can you? You can't run down a unit.
Can
you not? Is that gone now? So but you get different options, don't you?
Pursue them just to get back into combat. You can't
Oh, interesting.
I'll just kill a unit out right now.
But I like the idea of actually, I'm on this objective. I've won combat. Now I just get to fucking shoot them as they run away. How effective it is, I don't know. But
another advantage for shooting lists. Yeah.
But there is that. Yeah. There is that. Yeah.
So just another thought on this one. So I think you can start to get a feel of where Legion rules are going as well, with things like volley fire and things like setup moves. So will a Legion rule make you better? Will it add a certain amount to your setup move? Will you be able to volley fire at full BS rather than snap firing or whatever? And I think that with these newer rules, you can start to get a sense of where Legion rules might end up.
Yeah, that's a good point. And snap firing isn't locked to a straight 6+ now either. If you have BS5, you're hitting on a 5 or whatever it is. So
that's great. I think that's a really cute little detail. I like that one.
And there are so many more rules in the game now that there are so many ways to give flavor to legions if they choose to, giving different advantages to different legions. Maybe a legion gets a bonus to follow up moves or to get out of combat, and there's just so much more variety now.
Yeah, plus 2 to a setup move would be pretty pretty great.
Yeah.
+2, 3 to a setup move would be a pretty good Legion rule, I think, for an aggressive, World Eater style Legion or something like that.
Do you have a favorite rule here that you've read?
I was thinking about this. I don't know. I do like the setup move, but I also like that. I like what they've done with flyers. I think it's very different, but I'd like to see how it kind of plays out, having the different combat roles. It's a bit of a shame because you're beautifully.
Can you just give me the headlines of how it works now?
So you have to assign your flyer when it's in reserve a particular role. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but one of them is a basic attack run. One of them is dropping off a unit. Another one is picking up a unit. So, the model, it comes onto the table, it performs that maneuver, and then it leaves straight away. So it's on the table for one turn, and then it leaves combat airspace. And then you have to roll.
But it gets. Does it get harder as the game progresses?
You can roll again next turn to bring it in, and you can assign it a different mission, but you have to roll again, and it becomes harder to bring it on each time.
Yeah.
So you could do the drop off move where you get to make a full move onto the table.
Yeah.
You drop your squad off, and then the flyer disappears again. Or
I've got mixed feelings about that. I think that the thing I think it does well is that it demonstrates the speed at which aerial combat takes place. I think that is, I guess, what they're kind of demonstrating. I think the issue that you've got is more of a hobby and gaming level, which is just man,
you never see it on the table.
I get to use it once, this thing that I've spent literally 20 hours building and painting, and then because of just some poor rolling, I will only get to play with it literally one turn. I mean, that was always a thing with flyers anyway. I mean, they automatically came on turn 4 because you just got some unrocky rolling. That was always a risk. But I have mixed feelings about it. But as you say, it's good to reserve judgment until you get to play with them. But
we don't know.
One thought I had with that was that I want to see if there's like, an equivalent to zooming now, to hover, because those kind of rules
to force them to stay on.
Yeah, exactly. In particular, flyers that are designed as gunships, like a Xiphon is always going to be in that fast mode. It can't slow down and dogfight with ground targets. Whereas a Fire Raptor, it would make a lot more sense for a Fire Raptor to hang around and be on the table for longer. So I don't know if there's going to be different rules for different flyers.
Yeah,
but that's definitely an issue.
That's what I was going to say. We don't know if Master of Signal will do something to boost flyers, or the flyers themselves may have their own rule within their rules. They might have their own thing of come on and shoot everything or whatever it's going to be. So it'll be interesting. Again, we just need to see the fucking levers, don't we? I just want to see what the actual flyers do. But I do like the way they've done it, that it just comes on and performs a task, and then it feels, although it's shit that, like you say, you painted all that model, it feels way more like what aircraft should be doing. They're not just sat, right in front of where all the lead is flying about. They're going to fly and
feels way
do
more
what they do and go. Yeah.
Even though you're
I'm more
flying,
inspired to paint up my Xiphon for sure.
It's an enigma to the game. Even though the flyer that you spent painting, for 20 hours or whatever, is going to be an enigma in the game.
Yeah.
What it's actually doing is cinematic, and I think that's another thing that I've really liked coming out of what's been leaked, but also what's been on Warhammer Community. And not many people are talking about it, but the little leak of rules that they did for the Titans and how they work, and things like having different armor values for different body parts of the Titan, having their head malfunction, and the arms go crazy or whatever, but also having your assault marines being able to fly and attack the head in combat.
That is so cool. I love that rule that the assault squads can do stuff. That's so cool. Yeah. I just feel those rules give more flavor to what should be a flavorful model. Before, it just sit there, not really do a lot, and it's basically a super heavy tank, isn't it? It just sits there shooting stuff. Whereas now, it feels very more thematic. I love the idea of assault squads can just jump up and punch it in the face. That's so cool. Yeah, absolutely.
And that's it's almost as iconic as a drop pod assault. It's that trademark maneuvers and stuff like that Space Marines are known for, and that you see in clips and you read about in books and whatnot. So he's hoping that they stick the landing on that when it comes to the in-game functionality of it. But at least it seems like the care's been thought about how to sort of go about these things in the game.
Yeah, just to add onto that one. So Kerry, in a show maybe at the start of this month, or maybe just a bit before, he'd obviously kind of unpicked for us the all the kind of the rules that they had teased in the Saturnine preview that they spent half a second on. There is the Stratovox war gear, which I assume is what the Master of Signals is going to have, and that just allows you to automatically come on from reserve. It's just it's on and it just comes on, right? So as you say, I think somebody mentioned, Rafi mentioned, that's where your Master of Signals comes in, and I suspect it's because he's got a Stratovox. So that's pretty cool.
Very sick.
Another rule not even a rule, a new phase I'm looking forward to seeing is the the challenge phase. And I don't really fully understand how it's going to work, but I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes, because as an Emperor's Children player, I fight a lot of challenges, and I feel like they're going to be more interesting now. and consequential potentially.
Yeah, I like this. I think everyone initially thought, oh, every single combat's going to have challenges going on, and it's going to be like just slow the whole game down. But it's just not going to work like that, is it? You're going to have one or maybe two combats where there's challenges going on. But I feel like that brings in a bit more of that storytelling. You know, like everyone loves it when two Primarchs clash and then nothing really happens. Like they just punch each other in the face for fucking 5 turns. So yeah, I do like that. It will be very interesting to see how it does actually play out. But yeah, like most of us play Heresy because we love the storytelling. You know, we love the cinematic kind of vibe of playing the game, and I think that just adds to that cinematic vibe. You got a big battle going on, and two commanders meet in the middle of the battlefield and just have a big old scrap. It'd be really interesting to see how that plays out.
I'm not as enthusiastic about it. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But like you said, it is not going to come up all that much.
No, I don't think so.
You're only really going to have 2 to 3 challenges a game if you're lucky. If you're lucky, it requires your commander or model with the right keyword to be in the same area of the board as the other guy. I mean, if you are playing narratively and for the lols and whatever, you can actually sort of curate that yourselves between you. But in a more sort of event-focused game, let's say, or tournament-style game, that may not be necessarily what you want. But then there are going to be some characters that you build that will have the movement capacity to go hunt other characters. And I think what you're gonna sort of see develop is people who want to lean into the challenge game and people who want to maybe steer around it. And those that do lean into it will have their combos ready to go, and they will know what to use, and they'll have their beat stick character armed with particular gambits or whatnot for their particular loadouts. And that's going to be their sort of recipe to go into challenges with. What do you guys sort of share that opinion?
I agree. And now that we're going to be taking more characters, I think everyone will have room to have that combat character, like a Legion champion who, you might have, 4 or 5 characters in your army, but you've got one guy who's out there to take the challenges or go hunting characters. So I think it's really cool. And as an Emperor's Children player, I've always taken Legion champions anyway. So I'm excited for this. And Adam, I don't know why you're not loving this, mate. It's our own magic phase. You take your gambits, you roll your dice, you got to counter pick the opponent.
It is the game within the game. I understand what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
The magic phase.
It's Gwent. If you've ever played The Witcher before, Gwent. Game within a game.
I'm sorry.
You haven't played The Witcher.
You're on
Kieran, have you played The Witcher? Oh my god! Oh my!
I played it.
So uncivilized.
I played it for about 15 minutes, and I was like, "Oh, this is so fucking boring."
Too complicated for you. That's the problem.
I think the thing is, you have to have the command or champion special rule to be able to do a challenge, don't you? So I just don't think there's going to be. I think when people first read about this, they were like, every sergeant's going to be issuing a challenge, and that's just not a thing. You
physically can't do it. No.
Yeah, you can do the prime upgrade to give one unit in your detachment the champion rule, but but then if you're fighting someone that doesn't have it, you're not doing the challenge. So, that's my understanding. Anyways, do you both have to have?
Yeah, so that's a good question, actually, because in that Master Sergeant one, you just if nobody else is taking Master Sergeant, they're all taking logistical benefit. How useful is it if I take Master Sergeant?
Because you're not going to be issuing challenges. That's where I think it will be interesting to see it actually. I think this will come up not even once or twice a game. I think this will come up a few times every kind of 2 or 3 games. Yeah.
So
when it does come
will
up,
be useful. the Master Sergeant will be useful if you take him in a unit with a character that you don't want to be in a challenge, so he can, he can tank it for at least one turn.
Yes.
Yeah.
He can be a little bitch and take it with the Sergeant instead.
Yeah.
But the Sergeant will die, and they might get you next turn, but it will at least keep you alive for a turn.
Yeah, the only thing I would say, so I'm fine with challenges, fine with how they work. It's a mini game within a game, like no problem. The only thing I think events will have to do is just cap the number of rounds that people do each turn, because I could definitely see like a Primarch combat going on for like 5 rounds of combat per turn, and then being like, oh, we've just added like 50 minutes onto our game because we've just dueled each other throughout a game. So I think events will just probably cap and say you can only do 3 rounds of combat per turn, and then that's it, and then you've got to move on, because otherwise it's just going to take forever. And sometimes you'll just kill them outright, but there was we've all been in challenges where you just whiffed and then just continuously whiff for a game. So literally that So
depends how many 3-up in-bomb saves there are going around. Otherwise, I think they shouldn't take that long. And depending on what kind of damage the weapons have, who knows? Yeah,
that's the thing as well.
But like you say, your Primarch will go forever, but apart from that, I think most things will resolve themselves pretty quickly.
You whiff a couple of saves, and then you've taken like six damage. That's it. You're dead. You know what I mean? That'll be a good one. But I like it. I think the biggest thing that will slow it down is I think it won't actually appear that much. So everyone will have to get their rule book out and be like, "How does this fucking work again?" Like,
that's the bit that's going to slow it down.
I need to print off some cards with the gambits.
Yeah.
I understand the game within a game for idea, and for something like fantasy battles, that's synonymous with fantasy battles. And it's been worked on and massaged through 9 editions of the game, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Now, I just hope that this isn't just ham-fisted in for that sort of game within a game's sake. And I hope it's actually genuinely a pleasure to play rather than like a chore.
Yeah, I mean, worst case scenario is just everyone fucking ignores it, don't they? And if it's really that bad, but I don't think it will be. But yeah, it's always one of those things. You could always say to your opponent, "Can you be bothered doing this?" No, right, let's just have a scrap. But I don't think it will be. I think it will be one of those points, because everyone's had those games where your 2 warlords meet in the middle, and it just comes down to I need to make this one save and I win or I die, and you're like, hey, fuck, I lost. I just think it will just improve that bit of that game.
Yeah,
but
and also I think the other thing is that some characters are going to be more incentivized to do challenges than others, because because some characters are going to have their own gambits, and they're going to be like, yes, of course I'm not going to ignore this. Yes, we're going to do it because it's the best rule in my army, so of course I'm going to do it.
Of course I'm going to take Sigismund.
He just wants it more.
Oh, fuck, I hate that.
4-turn games, they're here to stay.
Yeah.
I don't like 4-turn games. I sort of enjoy the feeling out of the first turn, right? Because deployment's such an important part of the game. You do have that first turn to position, to posture against your opponent, and then you sort of set up for the next couple of turns. Whereas I think now maybe the game's just going to feel a little bit too rushed or forced to be rushed. And you're either going to have to turtle really hard to avoid a potential first turn charge, or try and rush out there to score as many cumulative points as you can, but potentially jeopardize your own things because you don't have that key sort of setup turn. Or maybe you can't take fullest advantage of the terrain on the board because that fire lane that you want to get to isn't set up quite right. Maybe games might come to a little bit of a premature ending as well. I mean, from what we've seen, I'm not sure that the game has gotten more destructive. It did get more destructive from that jump between 1.0 and 2.0. And by destructive, I mean the amount of things dying per turn, essentially. through weapons becoming more devastating, like las cannons having sunder and deleting vehicles. But also your rate of fire in second edition is higher, almost 3 times higher, depending on if you're using reactions on that same unit each turn. So, like, I don't see anything in the leaks that we've seen so far to indicate that the game's being more destructive. So is everything going to die in that 4-turn period? Is it going to feel like a natural conclusion to a game? They're the kind of big question marks and worries that I've got about the missions at this point. How do you guys feel?
I like it when everything doesn't die. I think that's a better. It feels better because it means that you're playing a mission and you're trying to score points on objectives rather than just blasting the enemy off the table. And I feel like there are a lot less, even though the power level of like weapons has gone up in second edition, since the 4 turns came in, I feel like there have been far less tablings than even in first edition with the longer games. And, you know, kill points aren't really a thing. So I think it works nicely. The only issue I have with four game turns is in regards to reserves, because it means that, you know, your units are missing so much of the game. And, you know, at the moment, it looks like in third edition, you'll be able to deep strike 1 unit per turn, which is terrible. I'm assuming there's going to be some rules that make you, you know, be able to do more. Maybe that's in the drop site like book or whatever. But as it is now, bringing in 1 unit through deep strike a turn is just terrible. And if you know,
fuck you, Blood Angels.
If you miss,
fuck you.
Yeah, if you miss your first roll, your unit has missed half the game. And if you can't assault from deep strike, that means you have 1 turn to fight combats. Like,
so why pay the point?
That's my kind of drawback for. That's what I don't like about 4 turns. But otherwise, 4 turns I'm fine with.
Yeah, I agree, to be honest. It's funny because I think of events I've played in and I can't remember the last time I made it to a 5th round in an event, because you usually spend half your time just chatting shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even if you're doing 2 games in a day in an event, like I rarely, I don't think I've ever got to a 5th round. Like, if you're playing a game all day with one of your mates, then there's more chance of that happening. I get what you're saying. I think you just have to play differently. You just have to be more aggressive, I think. You know, like, but also, like, if it doesn't work and people don't like it, I can't remember last time I went to an event where we just played missions out the book. Like, most event organizers create their own missions. So if it's not popular, then just make it 5 rounds. Like, you know, it's I don't think it's a big problem, to be honest. I quite like it, actually. I like having the option. Like, you can do a mission from the book and it's 4 rounds, or an event organizer can create their own missions and be like, you know what, this is larger games. We're only doing 2 games in a day. Let's do 5 rounds.
It also impacts your ability to string combats together and that sort of stuff as well, having the shorter turns. And that's where I kind of feel like maybe it just might not reach that natural conclusion feeling.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. Like, again, like I've said, we won't know until we start playing it, will we? I haven't heard anyone complaining about 4-turn games in second edition. Like, maybe they are and I just haven't heard it, but most people seem to enjoy it, to be honest. But yeah,
I think it might be more of an issue in third edition, because I feel like in second edition, the amount of reactions we have, it really kind of fluffs out those 4 turns, and you're active in the opponent's turn as well. So you're only having 4 active player turns, but you're having little half turns in between. Whereas if they cut down the reactions a lot, then it's going to be far less kind of impactful, and then the 4 turns are going to be really compressed. Because even with 4 turns now, you could have a shooting unit shoot like 8 times or whatever. So Yes,
Yeah, no, that's true. That's
and you can move, multiple times, and less reactions. The turns are going to be even shorter.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It'll be interesting. But like I say, if it doesn't work, like fucking just make it 5 turns. Like this, you know what I mean? It's not the end of the world, is it? Like, even if you play the mission from the book and just say fuck it, we'll do 5 turns. I mean, it used to be like 7 turns, was it? Like get to the 6th turn and then roll for a 7th. It was like whoever, like. So we were half the game.
We were men back then, weren't we?
And you'd play 3 games in a day. You're like, fucking hell, my brain doesn't work.
In 1.0, when I played,
exactly.
I had my Flamesaver's hat on.
But again, the last event I went to, I don't think I got out of the 3rd round because I was too busy chatting shit with people and just having a laugh. That and that's not ideal. You want to get to a point where you feel like the game has even if you don't finish the game, because that's the risk, isn't it? That was the risk of 5 turns, is you could set up for something and then actually, because it's taken so long, you don't get your 5th turn and actually you lose. Whereas if you had your 5th turn, that final charge or shooting that you'd set up for would have changed the outcome of the game, but actually you just ran out of time. So I guess there's a flip side of that with longer games. Is you could have set up for something, and I've never seen it happen. I've heard of it in 40k of people purposely wasting time so that you don't get your last turn, which it's just like fuck me. Like, have a word with yourself. It's a game of plastic soldiers, but yeah, I think if it doesn't work, it's an easy fix, isn't it? Just play 5 turns. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the rule book says that the missions are supposed to be played at 3,000 points, and obviously we're going to play whatever point limit we want, so we can also change the game turns.
Yeah.
Anything to add, Rob?
No, I think you covered it. Is there any rule at this moment in time that says a transport can't move its full distance and then you can get out and then charge? Has anybody seen any rule that looks like that?
Oh, I can't remember, to be honest.
I'm going to assume that means a transport can move its full distance and you can get out and then you can set up and then you can charge, right? So I think that the normal, you can see where I'm going with this, which is the normal cadence of a game, be it 4 or 5 turns, is usually turn 1 is shoot the shit out of each other and do some moving. Turn 2 is usually shoot the shit out of each other and then set up for your charges, and maybe you'll get some charges in there if you're lucky. And then turn 3 and 4 is often dealing with the assaults that you've just done with a bit of shooting on top. That's usually the cadence of a game. Now, if you have the ability to move 10 in a transport, get out 7, do a setup move of 4 inches, and then charge 1d6 on top of that, I feel like that what you've done is squash the game into you might not actually need 5 turns, because your assaults could well be happening from the first turn, especially like rhino rushing and things like that, right? So, but I'd have to check the rule book to see if that's actually the case. So I wonder whether they're just like, actually the pace of this new edition is so frenetic that there's actually no point to go to a 5th turn, because like everything's moving so quickly. But I think, exactly as Lee said, variety is the spice of life. Like, it's nice to play 4-turn missions sometimes, and it's nice to play 5-turn missions sometimes as well, because each one offers something slightly different. The mission offers something slightly different, and the length of the game offers something slightly different. I think, from my understanding, though, this is just generally Games Workshop's kind of like MO now, isn't it? Which is just like 4-turn games. Like, it's the kind of thing you pick up on an evening with a mate and play in the evening with a mate. And then like 4 turns are just generally better because you're usually home by 10 o'clock in the evening. So yeah, but I think variety is the spice of life, but I suspect that things are going to be much more frenetic than there you go. Like Pardo's just said, the game is faster. There you go. Yeah. So like, I think things are just going to be more frenetic, like in terms of turns.
So yeah, so you can disembark before a transport moves or at the end of its movement. That's all it says. You can
at the end of its movement. Holy shit. Yeah. Okay, well then if a rhino's got a movement of like 10 or 14, you're just like, oh, hello, I'm here for a charge at the first turn. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And you can charge out of rhinos, can't you?
Yeah, because
It's
is it just a disorder
disordered
charge?
Yeah. So you
We just
can't
have to wait and
control
see if
them.
there's a combat speed now. Yeah, still, if there, we still don't know if it is that half move required or not.
But that's the thing, that's what I mean, which is that I've not seen that in the rule book.
No,
and that
I'm
would
literally
be
looking at it now.
that would
it doesn't
be
say anything.
rule book specific. That's not
Yeah.
that.
Well,
that
I've not read the rule book. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
We are going back to 3rd edition with Assaulting Outer Rhinos.
Yes.
Hardcore.
Yeah, Rhino Rush.
So on the topic of missions, we're going to start accruing more VPs in games, which will help break stalemates that we've had in the last sort of couple of editions, or low scoring games that could be really, really intense and fun, but aren't actually reflective on the scoreboard. So Kieran's just brought it up now. Line and line stacking. Well, I've just come up with that term, line stacking. But accruing more points seems like a very interesting and swinging game to make, not only, or basically to make missions more dynamic and to compete at different levels. Compete in different turns. Because one rule that we've also seen too is doubling the amount of victory points, was it, in the last turn, or having that option too? So that could be like a real cool and interesting last turn gambit to then, try and topple your opponent with those victory points. Now, we've got line and we've got Vanguard as well. And those two things offering ways to accrue more points. I could only see this as a really great thing for missions, to be honest.
Yeah, agreed. And I think this comes back to what we're talking about with the status effects as well. Of, you're really going to start thinking about, well, what weapons can I take to just stop my opponent scoring? Like, I don't actually have to kill that line unit. If they're pinned, then they're not scoring, and then I can just forget about them and move on to the next thing. So, I think this is really interesting, and the fact that everything can score, but it's just scoring units are better at scoring.
Yeah, this is just Games Workshop MO all over, which is that they want you to have a good time and not to have feel bad moments. Because if you are a ruthless Alpha Legion player, and you've gone, this tax squad is dead, this tax squad is dead, and this tax squad is dead on the first turn, and that means then you can't play the game and you can't win. Yeah. What they've done here is gone, okay, no matter what units you've got in your army, you can basically you're still in the game until the end, until you're tabled, right? And that is just Games Workshop all over. It's about removing those feel bad moments, and everybody feels like a winner from the game, right? That's just this is just Games Workshop now. This is the world we live in. Like,
I don't hate it, because why should that Terminator squad not be able to hold that objective?
No, it's great.
Why can they not?
Great. Yeah, but it's just the way that games just are working out. So, because you could argue, you could be like, well, why have they just not kept it the same? Which is that there are some things scoring and some things not. And the reason is because they want you to feel invested in the game right up until that fourth turn, and this allows you to do that.
Yeah, which I think is a good thing. Like, that, no one wants to lose all their tax squads at the start of the turn.
Exactly. Yeah, which can be so easily done. If people are ruthless about the way they play, it's so easily done.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really interesting to see the tax component come from rules like Line and Vanguard as well. We've already spoke about the tax of more like, let's call it a negative tax, right? A negative points tax to taking multiple commanders to open up detachments. But you're also taxed into taking line units and Vanguard units if you want to be competitive in missions, right?
Yes.
So the combination of those two things is really what's going to make list writing interesting. And I think the combination of those two things now means that we may see more combined arms style armies doing very well in missions.
I think so. I agree with that. I do think it will be interesting to see, because going back to if you're not taking any units that have line, then you could be at a disadvantage because obviously they're going to be scoring more points than you. But if you're then taking a fuckload of things that pins your opponent, then they're not actually scoring. So then it kind of counteracts that line rule, because you're just pinning all your opponent. And again, like, we don't really know what weapons have what special rules. You know, until we actually see the Liber and actually, because it might only be like 1 or 2 rule weapons that actually cause.
Yeah, they have been interested. They're happy. It's been interesting, and they've been noticeable by their absence. Like, the only one I think I've seen. Well, you've obviously got the Flamers, which are panic, and then the Grav, which causes pinning. Right, so they're clearly gone. Okay, well, let's get rid of Haywire and let's slow these things down. Like, they're trying to like trudge through, and that is represented by pinning now. So, but yeah, you're right. Like, heavy bolters didn't have anything, did they?
No.
They just got the heavy shot, whatever it is.
Yeah, they got the extra shot.
The firepower FP, wasn't it? So that's been interesting. But I actually think there was too much pinning in the game before. Like, with sniper rifles and stuff like that, was just way too much pinning in the game.
Yeah. Well, is it too much pinning, or people just took lots of sniper squads?
Combination of both, I suspect.
But yeah, it's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
For me, with the line stuff, it's good that every unit has, well, not every unit, but most units will have some way to score points, either through Vanguard or line. One thing I really want to see, though, is that the basic units like Assault Marines, Tacticals, and Despoilers have a significant advantage in the points that they can score, because I want to see lots of those units in the game still. I don't want people to say, oh, everything can score now, so I'm going to take, X, Y, and Z more powerful unit. I want to see those basic units in the game, because I think that's what the game looks its best. Yeah, so definitely. I love the different levels.
Do we know what tactics? Do they have like line 4? Do they? Tactical.
I'm not sure. I'm hoping to have something significant.
It was line 3, but you get a point for scoring the objective, and then you get the 3 points, so you get 4 points. I think that's how it works
for each tactical unit.
Yeah.
I think it's fine. But I just think, like, the problem. What's the call on attack squad? Is it 7?
Yeah.
Oh man, I'm just convinced that basically they're just going to get tactical status all the time. Like, if you focus fire at them with like whatever.
I don't think that many weapons will have it. That's I don't think that you will be, because I was surprised to see heavy bolters didn't have something, because
I would have thought
kind of pinning weapon. But so it'll be interesting to see again until we actually see the levers.
This is where we find out that all Iron Warriors like bolt weapons have pinning. I'm just like, oh no. Fuck.
And we'll have more characters to put with our units as well, and you'll be able to use their characteristics.
That's where I think it, like, personally, I don't think that characters are going to be too much of an issue for the Force Org. I think that's fine. I actually think in game you're going to need characters to buff the cool. That's honestly where I think that you probably want lots of characters in your attack squad.
Yeah, because like a Lion Centurion or something with a tactical squad on an objective, that just sounds fucking sick. Like, that just sounds so heresy to me. So I'm looking forward to that kind of thing. And who knows, like, Space Marine commanders might have special rules. Maybe Master of the Legion allows you to try and like remove a status from a unit or anywhere on the table, like
rally the Legion or something like that, right?
Exactly. There could be rules like that, or the Master of Signal. In this edition, he can pass his leadership to one unit, so maybe he can pass his cool or something to a unit. So who knows? Yeah.
I mean, that's an interesting one, isn't it? Because we literally know nothing about the Centurions. And GW tends to love like bubble rules, so it'll be interesting to see if a chaplain has a 24-inch bubble where that increases cool and leadership. We don't know, do we? But that'll be interesting to see. Hopefully, because then that just is another nice way of adding a bit of flavor into those consoles. But I imagine there will be something. I'd be fucking surprised if there isn't.
100%. 100%. But even if you are up against like one of those armies that are just designed for dick kicking that limit their life.
So if you're playing Rob,
all you need. Well, let's say that like there's a couple of like heavy conversion beam predators in the list. There's like minimum.
So if you're playing Rob,
yes, tell me more. It sounds like an interesting list.
There's 2
Tell me more about
contemporaries,
it.
2 leviathans. They all have shooting weapons. There's 2 javelins.
Sounds brilliant. Right up my alley.
All you need to dupe them is 2 tactical squads to sit on an objective for one turn.
That's exactly what they've done. Yeah, that's exactly what they've done. Yeah, but the question is, can your tactical squad survive my 2 heavy conversion beamers, my 2 leviathans with it? Like that's the issue, right? Can they're survivable? Yeah. But so yeah, I think like last time, it's just going to be that apothecaries are going to be really important on objectives. Apothecaries attached to big squads of tacticals is going to be really important. I mean, you clearly can't rely on a fearless herald anymore in the way that we could before. But I think Lee's probably right. There's some kind of bubble effect or attached unit effect that is going to allow it to be like leadership 10 or whatever, or cool 10. I hope anyway.
I'm calling it now. I think 3rd edition is the year of the breacher.
Do you reckon the survivability?
Yeah, get some survivable scoring units. Just sit there and.
Lee, if they're heavy, they get +1 to their cool.
Oh, super cool!
Oh, that's awesome.
Cool.
So
can you imagine? And then
this is where breachers won't have the heavy rule anymore, will they?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
But
just coming and also being dropped off on turn 2 in a storm econ as well, like doing like a deployment.
Yeah. A lot of infantry is what you will see. There you go, Pardo's cool.
Pardo.
Yeah, and he knows as well. He knows.
Yeah.
He's giving us little tasty little nuggets.
Because GW like him.
Yes.
That's cool. That's what you want, though, isn't it? Like that's the heresy, isn't it? Massed infantry, but actually doing something, not just get a fucking, broom and just sweeping off 50 tactical Marines a turn. Like you actually want them doing something and being relevant. But yeah, that's cool.
100%. So, gentlemen, knowing what you know now about the game, has it influenced your decision to maybe start a new army for this edition?
Well, for me personally, no, because it takes me about 3 years to paint an army, so there's no way I'm starting a new army. Because
just committed.
Yeah, by the time I finish painting an army, it'll be we'll be on 7th edition. So no, I will not be. I will just be adapting my Iron Warriors as we learn how the game plays. But Rob's already got every army. He doesn't need any more, does he?
No, that's it.
You got to do for a second time.
So good question. I've been considering this. So I think it's a toss up between White Scars or Salamanders. But I've been dabbling and thinking about doing Dark Angels for some time, but I don't know. I think they're really cool, but I think that if I ever have to paint another Zenobium Knight again, I might tear out my own fingernails, which is the problem. And it's not that I don't want to do it. It's that just like the effort that is involved is just really, really extreme. So yeah, I think like people have said, I think it will probably, the initial will just be an adaptation. See, like that single miniature, basically 1 minute took me like literally all day to do, because just Dark Angel is just really complicated, and you just got to edge highlight them and stuff like that to make them look like.
That looks so fucking good, though. Yeah,
that's great.
But it's like 1 day of just that miniature, right? It's not like I did 10 guys. It's like 1 day of just like a
that's normal, Rob. Welcome to normal for everyone else.
The problem is if I'm not painting other people's stuff, I'm not earning. That's the thing. So Salamanders, White Scars, or Dark Angels. I think I will definitely adapt the adaptation is clearly going to happen, and it'll be really nice to just carry on with like the Ultramarines and use those guys. But I always feel like a new edition, new army, like just get into the vibe of it, right? Let's just do some new stuff for some new heresy. Like that's kind of often what I feel like. 2.0 for me was really the domination of the Alpha Legion and the Ultramarines. Be nice to move away from something that isn't blue, but I just tend to find that blue always calls me. Color blue always calls me back, but yeah, we'll see. But White Scars, Salamanders, yeah, one of those two.
I find that sometimes armies don't migrate across editions very well at all.
No.
I tried to do that with my 1,000 Suns in the first 12 months,
yeah.
and I just got really angry and frustrated.
Yeah.
Not only at their terrible rules in 2.0, but just from what I had, comparing it to dynamically what appealed to me in a 1,000 Suns list in second edition, they were just worlds apart, and I just
and in that scenario, you're just like, oh well, basically, I could do 1,000 Suns and use like 2 of the units that I've got from my first army, but basically, I'm having to, or I could just start a new army, and probably that would just be like a more, it wouldn't fill me with utter resentment that I'm having to redo the army that I originally had to do. So yeah, I think that is definitely something.
Kieran, what about you?
I was going to say, Adam, I think a big part of that for 1,000 Suns was the Rights of War, wasn't it? Because you lost the 2 Rights of War that you used pretty much.
Don't get me started.
Yeah. One completely disappeared, and the other one turned to trash. So that was massive as well. Yeah. For me, I am thinking of a new project. I haven't made any decisions yet. I'm all over the place. I've never done like a proper loyalist army, so. You know, I've got Alpha Legion who can swing either way, and I've got Loyalist Emperor's Children, but they don't really count. So I would feel like I would like to do a Loyalist army, but I just find the traders so much more interesting. So yeah, I'm all over the place at the moment, but probably something that focuses on combat. So I've been thinking about World Eaters, of course. I'm always thinking about them.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. There's lots of things up in the air. Yeah, I'm definitely keen to try something new though.
I think one thing that will be good with this edition is just how easy it is to add in allied detachments. So
yeah,
you know, if you're not sure and you want to have a little like tester, you can just put together a little you know, you could literally do like a command unit, like a console and a Contemptor Dreadnought, and you can actually run that as an allied attack. You know, you're not committed to doing like 10 TAC Marines or whatever. You could just have a little play about it.
That's actually a really good point. Actually, I hadn't really thought of that.
You could just add in something you know, fun, and just be like, fuck it, actually, I really enjoyed that. I'm going to work on that. Or be like, actually, I've painted that one model. I didn't enjoy it. I'm going to move on to something else.
Because you could just be like, oh, I'm just going to have an Archmagos and then 1 Thanatar, and then that's my allied detachment.
Literally.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
that's a really good point, Lee. Yeah. Adam and I, in our last episode, were talking about the World Eaters again. And I was, you know, talking about some of their fluff limitations, like around Psychers. But with the new rules, I could easily just take like a Word Bearer's Psyker.
Oh,
and,
yes, do
ally
it. You have to do it. You've said it now. You have to
do the World Eaters. Yeah, it's just the new allies.
Fucking brilliant.
Opens up so many options, right? You know, I don't even have to
because you could just be like, I'm just going to take Erebus in a Sons of Horus list now, right?
Just a Word Bearer's.
You can't take the highest level of character in an allied.
You can because the prime slot allows you to take special assignment, which allows you to take a high command in that command slot.
So they can't then take a detachment. I think they can't take a detachment, can they? You can't take a detachment off that person.
You can't take
run that character.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You can just run that character.
So you couldn't take an Apex detachment because they then can't take a detachment. I think that's how it works. But
yeah, I think you might be right. Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right.
But yeah, I just think it's so much easier now to stick in. Like you say, if you just want to do some Mechanicum, you could literally just do a Magos, and then I can't remember what the option's called that just allows you to take a unit. You take the Prime.
The logistical benefit. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so you couldn't take Archmagos because an Archmagos would presumably suck up.
So it would be like a
Magos
special assignment.
So you'd have to do your Magos and then that one. Yeah. Okay.
And then you could take like a Domitar or whatever it is. So I think that will be really interesting, and I think that you could be really gamey with that and just take in like amazing units, or you could just have a bit of fun with it. And yeah, like that's just another way if you're not sure if you want to run an army. Because to be honest, I mean, we've all talked about this before, but until you actually start painting something, you don't know if you're going to enjoy it. You could have all the best ideas in the world, and you start painting something, and you're like, you know what? I fucking hate painting this. Like, I cannot do an army of this. But actually, I could do whatever unit it's Gal Vorback, like a squad of Gal Vorback, and
indestructible Iron Hands Saturnine Dreadnought.
Yeah.
It would be cool. I think, was it you that said it on one of your shows, Rob, having a what are they called? Word bearers chaplain or something lead like a horde of world eaters space raids. You like using that.
That's pretty cool, right? Yeah.
Like, it's sick as
yeah,
fuck.
I mean, the one I'm really interested in is like a war in the webway. So basically, you've got Talons as your primary, and then in the Allied detachment, you've got Dominion Zephon, and then he has special assignment because he will be high command. And then the next Allied detachment, you have Arcanland as a Magos.
Yeah.
And then he takes like a Castellax as his logistical benefit, but that's just his cyber monkey, right? And then you've got like, because the problem with the like creating a war in the webway list with just like Dominion Zephon and Arcanland in the previous edition was that you also had to have some like gribbly tech thralls or like some guys that weren't in the book like that. But that's not a thing now. Like you can actually do these awesome like narrative combos, which I adore. I love that. That's really
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, definitely sick. Baz says, "How you doing, bunch of beautiful bastards?" Heresy 3.0 is looking really good for me. Very much more narrative focused game where troops are now very much more important. Yeah, it does seem that way.
I think Baz is going to be starting some Horus Heresy for this edition. I think he's got to be
first all in. Horus Heresy right now today, so he can bring it with him.
Yeah. Yes, Baz.
Good segue. Good segue.
Yeah.
Did you like that?
That was really good. He came at the perfect time, didn't he?
Rob, tell us about what you're going to be doing in Australia while you're here.
Yeah, so literally, it's like 3 or 4 weeks away now, isn't it? It's crazy how quickly this has come up. So me and Baz have united forces as if we were the Power Rangers of old, and we've made a super droid, and we are coming to Australia. So we've got 3 classes going on in Australia. So the first one is going to be Baz's in Sydney, which is going to be a sculpting course, a weekend sculpting course, and he's doing the course that he's kind of like crafted and creative over here in the UK, kind of like Heresy specific, and that's kind of like looking at like beards and hair and kind of like armor panels and soft armor panels. Like really valuable course, really good. I have done that one multiple times, and it is, in fact, actually I paid for Baz to come and do some like private tuition with me and Paul to do that, and it was I learned so much. And then in Sydney the following week, I am doing Kratos course, so bringing the Kratos course over to Australia, which is really cool. But as a result, I will be painting 3 Kratos on while I'm in Australia, which is why I'm like, oh, maybe I'll do salamanders, because I was like, I'll just do like Melter and Laz, and then I've got like 3 Kratos to kind of like start the force. That was kind of like my kind of idea. And then we are heading over to Melbourne for I think around 7 days, and then we're doing the Heresy camp over in Melbourne. So that's actually a 5-day course, but we've got a kind of a day in the middle for kind of like gaming. So we've rented the gaming space where we're doing it. So hopefully we can get some games in. And actually, like the new edition will be out by the time that we are there. Like we fly about 3 days before the new edition comes out. So really excited.
What army are you bringing with you, Rob?
So it's got to be a compact army. So
Fury of the Ancients.
I think it will be. I can't basically use that now. I haven't got enough console choices to use that army. So yeah, I think it'll be Alpha Legion. I think I'll probably go for that one.
Awesome.
then yeah, so we're doing 2 days of courses, and then we've got a day in between, and then we've got 2 days after that as well. Now what will happen is we've got about 20 students on the course. 10 of them will be working with me for 2 days, and then the other 10 will work for Baz, and then we'll kind of flip over, which is the reason why in that 5 days I'll be painting two Kratos, and then plus the one from Sydney. So yeah, lots of Kratos to be taken with me back. But yeah, mega excited. So thanks ever so much if you signed up, and there's still time to sign up. If you want to buy a ticket, then please get in contact or go over to my Eventbrite page or my new website where you can get all the links as well. But yeah, we're pretty. I know Baz is really, really excited, and we've also got our partners coming with us as well. So a holiday as well as a gaming kind of thing going on. So yeah,
your
really
partners
excited.
will love that, won't they?
Well, I've got my Heather's got a friend in who lives in Melbourne. So like, she's just like they've kind of like plans already. So yeah, but these are student Kratos. This is what students have done previously on the course. And it's really good because like it's one of those ones where the Kratos is a ginormous tank, but actually it is feasible to get it done within a weekend if you really go for it. But yeah, absolutely like buzzing for it. Really, really excited. And I know
mine's still in the box.
Yeah, same. I've got 3 still in the box as well. Yeah, I need to go on it.
Still in the box.
Look at all these. Look at all the. Oh man, you've done some good research here, collecting all these. I wouldn't even know where these are on my computer now. Look at all this. That's great. That's good.
They're so impressive though. They look so good.
Yeah. They look really good. Yeah, the students done an amazing job.
Look at that.
I think
this is all students' work. So good.
Yeah, all students. Yeah, this is and when they're on the table, like laid out on the table as well, and like whoa, like we have achieved a massive amount. I'm hoping like the Kratos is completely and utterly indestructible next edition, so like even more people will come on the Kratos course. Like people are like, oh, of course I want to get Kratos painted over the course of a weekend because it's a really good model. Because it was always in that weird place where it's kind of like it's all right, it's a centerpiece, but it's not an amazing like model. But I'm hoping it's got like 15 hull points and its melter is like strength 12 and it does like 8 damage or something.
90
absolutely mental.
range.
Yeah.
That one's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, this looks great.
Well, it's going to have to be a Saturnine Dreadnought course now.
So that was my initial thinking. That was the one so I've got a date in the UK in November that I've got kind of free. I'm just waiting for the Saturnine Dread to drop. I think the problem, so the Kratos, this is really inside baseball on this one. So the Kratos looks complicated, but it's got really good shapes in terms of it's got a domed turret, it's got kind of 90-degree and 45-degree angles across it. So it's quite good for a piece to teach on because there's lots of things where you're having to break rules as well as bend rules, as well as break the rules that I've literally just taught you just because of the different shapes on it. So it's quite good as a teaching piece. The Saturnine Dreadnought, I think, is and then the other thing I would say about the Kratos is that in terms of blocking in metallics, it doesn't actually take that long. Like, so, if you just look at this piece, for example, it's the bits on the turret, there's some tracks that we would do, the sponsons, but actually there's not that much metallics on it. The problem with a Dreadnought, I think, especially something that size, is that there's a lot of time would be spent on doing the metallic skeleton, the frame, and actually you as a teacher, you want people to be learning constantly, and actually you kind of go, how much value is it for people to spend 90 to 2 hours just kind of like blocking in metallic? So I think there's that one. Like the Contemptor is a much easier one to learn on because actually like it's got a metallic frame to it, but there's not that much metallics on it. So you're always constantly kind of thinking what's going to be the best canvas to learn on. But yes, the overwhelming urge to do a Saturnine Dreadnought course is there, but I need to kind of almost time myself over the course of a weekend to do one and go, is it feasible to do this, or is it feasible to do 50% of it? The thing about the Kratos is that it looks so good when it's all finished and all done, like, and then you got them right on the table, like it's really impactful. I'm not quite sure whether the Saturnine, half-finished Saturnine across a table would look quite as impactful, but I need to test myself, but yeah, looking forward to playing around with that one. But it's so good. We're in a world where we can do like these heresy courses across the globe, and now we've got these tanks in plastic. It's just so much more accessible for people to like do you? Like, can you imagine if you said to somebody 5 years ago, "Oh, I'm doing this course, but also you need to bring a resin fell blade with you"? You'd be like, "The bloody tank's more than the cost of the bloody courses." Yeah. So,
do you guys just mind if we do a couple of comment questions before we close?
Please,
today?
please.
Pascal, Rob, one for you. How many pending SN commissions you got right now?
Pending. So I've got a couple of dreads to do on the 1,000 Suns for Pardo, and then that is completed. Like 1,000 Suns, that is like the list that we had created. I've done one extra kind of like Centurion for him. I suspect that's going to be important for list building with 1,000 Suns in the future. He's not told me anything about that. He's just like, oh, by the way, I need this thing. Just don't worry about the reason why. I just need this thing, right? Just don't. It's not important. It's not important why you need this.
That is a big army, though, Rob.
Yeah, mate, it was fucking huge. Like, it was a lot of fun doing this actually. I tell you why it looks good. It's because it's harmonious, isn't it? Like, it's just like it's just uniform. But so this was really interesting. Like, that we'd created this list some time ago, and in fairness, Pardo has been waiting on this. This would have been an amazing 2.0 list if I'd got it to Pardo when I should have got it to Pardo. But I've been somewhat snowed under of late. So he's bared with me. But yeah, really enjoyed it. Like, it's got 20 Sekhmet. So I mean, like, it would be cool if Sekhmet can still deep strike, but if they can't, then there might be a second Spartan or Land Raider on the way. That
must
for
be
this
good
list.
in 3rd edition,
Yeah, well, this is it.
So everyone's just looking at this image.
Literally. What's it? No, I think that would be unfair to Pardo though, because this is the list that we created literally like a year ago, and I think he's more working like ready, steady, working with what I've given him more than that. But but I suspect there'll be more added to this list, and like with lots of these armies, there's going to be more added to them. So I've got some Night Lords that I need to do for him to expand his Night Lords list. I know that we want to expand the Alpha Legion, because that's a 2,000 point army that's very specific, like proper headhunter. So that needs some like vehicles. And then it was interesting with that one actually, and it's interesting we've got you both here because I based those Alpha Legion in exactly the way that you guys had done his Ultramarines for him. So basically he can basically rewards of treason like Formentarus or like suzerain or whatever into the list, which is pretty cool. So you can mix and match those things, and then they look like good on the camera. And actually, I'm not sure if you've seen it, but like the Ultramarines blue against the turquoise of the Alphas, they're totally different. You can tell that they're like different armies rather than just being generic blue. And then so I've got Night Lords. I've been doing Salamanders. The Salamanders is quite a comprehensive force though, and it's quite mechanized. It's got three Kratos in it, so I'm not sure that he needs any more kind of like heavy armor from me.
How many Kratos have you painted in totality, or have you lost? Rob, what's your body count? There you go.
Yeah,
that's what
it must be. I reckon somewhere around the 30 or 40 mark for just the Kratos now.
That is a lot of
like commission. It is, it's crazy, right?
Way more vehicles than I've ever painted. Like, more vehicles. More vehicles and dreads I've ever painted all together.
It's crazy. It's literally crazy because every time you do a Kratos course, you're just like, oh, I've now got a new Kratos in my life, and like I never paint them in a new scheme. They're always either in like Ultramarines or in Salamanders in Pardo's case,
do you just have a cupboard that's just full of like Kratos? Basically, throw it in.
Oh, there's another one for the pile. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm hoping that they are.
Sadie, hey, drop it in for the love, dudes. Listening, will paint a Dark Angel Praetor. Ooh.
He's got some hot Dark Angels as well, this guy.
Excellent. Dark Angels, yes.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing that, bro.
Raffi says mortificator equals additional dreads.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Were mortificator? Could you only take one dread with the mortificator last time?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Maxed out.
Yeah.
I mean, you just didn't see it, did you? 2nd edition, it just wasn't.
Well, my concern is that the mortificator doesn't have a model. So
Uh,
I think that we may still see one.
yeah, maybe not. Yeah.
I think it's 50-50 at this moment in time. I wouldn't put money on it.
Surely they just make a model, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, interesting.
A gaming stucker says, will it still be possible to run an armored company in 3 point?
Yeah, 100%.
Don't see why not, right?
But you've got the from what we know at the moment, the problem is that in order to take all your juicy tanks, you need them unlocked through your commanders. So it might be something weird, like you've taken 3 Centurions to unlock your 50 tanks, but where you're going to put those Centurions is a matter for you and your army to discuss between you. I think the other one is like I think it would be odd if because like an armored tank company is a thing, right? So can you upgrade a Sakaran to have the command choice, like so it fills that slot? I don't know, but that you would have thought they would think that through, but I don't know. And but then the other thing I would say is that it might not be in the Libras, it might just be in the in part 1 and part 2 of the Ispan campaign books. We just going to need to wait a couple of months before that comes out.
Yeah, it'd be sweet to see the tank commanders, even maybe as like a type of HQ choice in a particular force, or Castrum and North coming back or something like that. That'd be
that'd be absolutely awesome. Like, even if it's like a 70-point upgrade to be like, oh, this is now a command like tank or whatever, like would be absolutely brilliant. But yeah, fingers crossed.
All right, boys, that will round out our Saturday Night Lodge episode 2. Thank you very much for coming on. Before we say goodbye, just tell us what's to come for Heresy Hammer in the weeks ahead.
Oh my God, what is to come? So I mean, Kerry's our Archmagus, and we're simply his tech thralls,
the brainless thralls.
Responding to his So what is coming? So we've got next month. We've got the continuation of our campaign. So we're just seeing out 2.0. We've got 2 missions for that. That's really cool. Like we've created some videos, an introduction to each mission, and then kind of like a cool voiceover, telling you exactly what you need to do. So if you want to join up there and be part of those, just to finish out 2.0 with the Passing of the Flame campaign, like please go and support us there. I mean, £4 is basically nothing, Lee. We are basically giving it away for free, aren't we?
But again, we do a 7-day free trial, so if you just want to go on there and get the missions, you can.
Yeah.
Sorry for the value.
And then we of course have lots of, so our main shows tend to be longer shows. We've done reaction shows over the past month, really, which have been shorter, but we do kind of like 2-hour long main shows, and that really ranges. Like I suspect there'll be lots of lore videos to come about the Drop Site Massacre. Like we obviously know a lot about that, but I wonder how the campaign books will kind of like retrofit that and change that. We obviously do like kind of tactical discussions, the state of heresy, community shows, etc. And then we have got Tactica shows on our Patreon. So Tactica's where we kind of like analyze units, analyze lists. We've been doing a lot of trifectas in kind of 2.0, looking at like vigilators combined with recon marines, combined with recon company, and seeing what's the best way to get those things out. So if you want to get the best out of your army, those are the kind of things that we offer via the Patreon. And then it's more general stuff over on Heresy Hammer Prime on the from the YouTube channel. So make sure if you aren't kind of signed up already, make sure you get yourself signed up either by subbing to our YouTube channel or becoming a patron.
And we'll put all the Heresy Hammer related stuff in the description of the video below. So boys, thank you very much for coming on. Rob, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very
much. Mum, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Chat, thanks for joining in.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having us,
guys.
And that will wrap up another Lodge. See you guys in the next one.
Cheers.
Heresy.